We are all born with potential, raw, untapped, often unrecognized. But potential means nothing without direction. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being the best in the room. It's about being the best version of you, a version that evolves, that grows, and that contributes. The biggest mistake people make is chasing someone else's definition of success. They compare, they copy, and they compete without ever truly understanding who they are or what drives them. And that's where the disconnect begins. Because no matter how hard you try, you cannot outperform your identity. You can only grow into it. The best version of you isn't found. It's built through discipline, values, and reflection. Let's break this down. The first step in becoming the best version of you is clarity. Most people know what they do. Few know why they do it. Ask yourself what matters to me, not what's popular, not what makes me money, but what moves me. Purpose is not a destination, it's a compass. When you understand your why, every decision becomes clearer, every goal becomes aligned, and every setback becomes a lesson, not a defeat. The second step is consistency. Talent is a spark, but consistency is the flame that keeps you going. The best version of you shows up every day, even when it's hard, even when nobody is watching, and most importantly, especially when nobody is watching. Character is built in private, results show up in public. Next, you must embrace resilience. Growth is not a straight line. There will be moments of doubt, failure, and fear. But these are not signs that you're on the wrong path. They are signs that you're on a real one. If you're doing something meaningful, it will challenge you. That's the price of becoming more than you were yesterday. Fourth is adaptability. The world changes fast, and if you don't evolve, you become outdated, not just in skill, but in mindset. Being the best version of you means being humble enough to unlearn, to ask questions, to update your knowledge, and to stay curious. Curiosity is not a trait, it's a discipline. And finally, service. This might surprise you, but the best version of you doesn't just live for you. Growth becomes transformation when it's used to elevate others. When your strength gives someone else permission to find theirs. The best version of you is not louder, it's wiser, it's kinder. It leads by example, not ego. So if you want to become the best version of you, don't start with goals. Start with questions. Don't start with comparison. Start with curiosity. Don't wait for confidence. Begin with courage. Because who you are becoming matters far more than who you've been. Fick no test. Clarity is the foundation. You must understand why you do what you do to truly grow with direction. Consistency beats intensity. Success is not about big wins. It's about small, repeated actions that align with who you want to be. Resilience builds identity. Challenges are not detours. They are part of the journey that shapes the best version of you. Adaptability sustains growth. The willingness to change, learn, and stay curious is what keeps you relevant and evolving. Purpose expands through service. The ultimate version of yourself doesn't just succeed. It uplifts others along the way. Clarity is not just about knowing what you want. It's about understanding why you want it. Most people live their lives chasing goals that are handed to them by society, by family, by culture. They go to college because it's expected. They pursue a career because it's respectable. They buy things to impress people they don't even know. And in all of this, they rarely stop to ask the most important question, is this really me? When you don't have clarity, you live reactively. You move from one task to another, one achievement to the next without ever feeling deeply fulfilled. That's because clarity isn't about productivity, it's about alignment. When your actions align with your values, your energy feels focused. You stop burning out from doing too much and start growing from doing what matters. But getting to that place requires self-awareness, and self-awareness requires courage. It means being brutally honest with yourself. It means stripping away the expectations, the distractions, and the comparisons to see what truly drives you. Clarity starts with asking the right questions. What do I stand for? What kind of impact do I want to have? What problems am I willing to solve for the rest of my life? These are not easy questions. They demand reflection. They demand silence in a noisy world. They require you to sit with discomfort because sometimes the answers reveal that you're not on the right path. And that can be hard to face. But the discomfort of truth is always better than the emptiness of chasing something that doesn't belong to you. People often confuse goals with clarity. They'll say, I want to make $1 million, or I want to be successful, or I want to be happy. But these are outcomes, not insights. Clarity asks, why $1 million? What does success look like for you? What makes you feel alive? It digs deeper, because if your goal is disconnected from your identity, you may reach it and still feel lost. But if it flows from who you are, then even the process of chasing it becomes fulfilling. Clarity is also what gives meaning to discipline. Without it, discipline feels like a chore. With it, discipline becomes a form of devotion. You're not just waking up early or staying focused because someone told you to. You're doing it because it brings you closer to the version of yourself you want to become. You're investing in a future that you chose, not one that was chosen for you. That makes all the difference. The best performers in any field aren't just skilled, they're clear. They know what they stand for. They understand their values, their priorities, and their purpose. That clarity becomes their filter. It tells them what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. Because when you know who you are, you stop chasing everything, you focus, you commit, you build something meaningful over time. Clarity also reduces fear. Uncertainty breeds anxiety, And when you don't know why you're doing something, every challenge feels threatening. But when you're clear on your mission, setbacks feel like detours, not dead ends. You can navigate life with a calm sense of direction because you're not just reacting, you're choosing. You're not driven by pressure, you're led by purpose. And here's something powerful: clarity is not a one-time event, it's a process. As you grow, your experiences will refine your sense of purpose. You'll discover new values, uncover deeper motivations, and update your goals. That's normal. That's healthy. The key is to keep listening, keep asking, keep checking in with yourself, because clarity is a living thing. It evolves as you do. In a world full of distractions and noise, clarity is your anchor. It gives your actions meaning, your choices weight, and your journey direction. It allows you to move from reaction to intention, from confusion to conviction, from chasing everything to building something that actually matters. That is the foundation of becoming the best version of you. Without clarity, you're just moving. With clarity, you're becoming. Consistency beats intensity. This principle might seem counterintuitive in a world obsessed with big wins, viral moments, and overnight success stories. We're constantly told that we need to go all in, to hustle hard, to grind day and night. But the truth is, long-term growth isn't built in bursts of passion. It's built in quiet repetition. The best version of you doesn't show up once in a while with a grand gesture. It shows up every day, often in ways the world doesn't see, and sometimes in ways that even you won't appreciate until much later. We admire people who achieve great things, but we often forget that behind those achievements are years of boring, consistent effort. A musician doesn't master their instrument by playing in front of crowds. They do it by practicing the same scales for hours. An athlete doesn't win championships through a single heroic play. They do it by training when it's raining, when they're sore, and when no one is cheering. A writer doesn't produce a brilliant book by inspiration alone. They do it by sitting down every day to wrestle with words. And that's what separates those who succeed from those who stop the ability to keep going, even when the motivation is gone. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They fluctuate based on mood, circumstances, and environment. If your personal development depends on motivation, you'll be inconsistent. And if you're inconsistent, your progress will always be limited. But when you replace motivation with a habit, when you turn action into routine, then you start creating momentum. You no longer have to think about whether or not you feel like it. You just do it because it's part of who you are. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means discipline. It means showing up even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient, even when there's no applause. And that's the key. Real growth happens when nobody is watching. It happens in the early mornings, in the quiet evenings, in the moments when giving up feels easier, but you choose not to. The compound effect of those decisions is massive. Small actions repeated over time lead to big results. But because the changes are slow, they're often ignored. And that's why many people quit. They want fireworks. They want proof that it's working. But the transformation is often invisible until one day it's undeniable. Another reason consistency matters is because it builds trust. Trust in yourself and trust from others. When you're consistent, you begin to believe in your own ability to follow through. That self-trust is essential. It's the foundation of confidence. You can't fake it. You have to earn it by keeping promises to yourself, by following through on your intentions. And when others see that consistency in you, they begin to trust you too. You become reliable. You become credible. You become someone who doesn't just talk about values, you live them. Consistency also protects your progress. Think about momentum like a rolling wheel. When you stop, it takes energy to get it moving again. But if you keep going, even at a slow pace, you preserve your progress. You stay connected to your goals. You don't have to restart over and over. That continuity is powerful. It keeps you emotionally invested. It keeps your identity aligned with your actions. Many people wait for the perfect plan before they begin. They want to map out every step, prepare for every obstacle, and guarantee success. But real progress comes from imperfect action done consistently. It's not about intensity, it's about sustainability. A short extreme effort can burn you out. A steady intentional effort can build something that lasts. Being consistent also changes how you see yourself. Every time you show up, you're reinforcing a new identity. You're telling yourself, this is who I am, and identity drives behavior. When you believe you are someone who follows through, someone who honors their commitments, someone who doesn't quit when it's hard, that belief influences every area of your life. It shifts your choices, your mindset, and your self-worth. In the end, the best version of you isn't built in grand leaps. It's shaped in the small steps, the repeated behaviors, the daily choices. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to do something and then do it again tomorrow. Because the person you become is not the result of what you do once. It's the result of what you do repeatedly. And that's where true transformation begins. Resilience builds identity. It's one thing to know who you are when everything is going well, but it's something entirely different to hold on to that identity or even discover a deeper one when everything falls apart. Adversity is not just a test of strength. It's a mirror. It reveals what you believe, what you value, and what you're truly committed to. Many people think that struggle is a sign they're on the wrong path. But more often than not, struggle is the path. It's the process through which strength is formed, character is shaped, and clarity is gained. When we face challenges, our natural instinct is to resist them. We want things to go smoothly. We want success without setbacks. But resilience is not built in comfort. It's built in tension. It's built in those moments when quitting would be easier, when staying silent would be safer, when lowering your standards would be more convenient, but you choose to keep going, to speak up, to stay true to your values. Those decisions made under pressure define you more than any easy win ever could. There is no growth without resistance. Just like muscles grow through strain and recovery, personal development happens through facing difficulty and choosing to rise. You learn what you're capable of only when you're tested. You uncover your real values only when they're challenged. Resilience forces you to go deeper. It asks you to look at yourself honestly, to recognize your fears, your weaknesses, your doubts, and move forward anyway. That's not just bravery, that's identity in motion. That's how you begin to realize who you really are. Most people see failure as an end point. But resilient people understand that failure is just feedback. It's data. It shows you what didn't work, and it invites you to try again, this time wiser. The best version of you is not the one who avoids mistakes, it's the one who learns from them, who keeps evolving, who sees setbacks as part of the training. Every time you bounce back, you grow a little more. Every time you adapt, you get stronger. And slowly over time, you build an identity that isn't fragile. It's forged, it's earned. Resilience also teaches you the difference between what's important and what's just noise. When you go through hard times, you stop caring so much about surface level things. You stop trying to impress. You start focusing on what matters, your values, your integrity, your inner peace. That clarity becomes part of your identity. You become grounded. And grounded people are unshakable not because life is easy for them, but because they've been through storms and learned how to stand. There's also a deep sense of pride that comes from being resilient, not arrogance, but quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that comes from knowing you didn't give up when it was hard, from remembering the times when you doubted yourself, when you failed publicly, when everything seemed to fall apart, and you kept moving forward anyway. That story becomes part of you. It changes how you walk into rooms, how you make decisions, how you lead others. It's not just about surviving pain. It's about letting pain shape you into someone more capable, more compassionate, more real. Resilience is also contagious. When people see someone who has gone through difficulty and come out stronger, they feel hope, they feel courage. Your resilience gives others permission to fight their own battles. It gives them proof that it's possible. So when you push through hardship, it's not just your own identity that's being shaped. It's your impact that's expanding. You become a living example of what's possible on the other side of pain. But resilience is not about pretending everything is okay. It's not about being emotionless or unaffected. It's about feeling the pain, the loss, the fear, and still choosing to respond with purpose. It's about showing up while hurting. It's about standing back up when you're tired. It's about continuing to grow, even if the progress feels invisible. That mindset builds a different kind of person, not someone who never breaks, but someone who refuses to stay broken. Eventually, you start to see adversity not as something to fear, but as something that refines you. You become grateful for the challenges, not because they were easy, but because they introduced you to a part of yourself you wouldn't have met otherwise. And that part, that deeper, stronger, truer version of you, is who you were always meant to become. Resilience doesn't just help you survive the hard moments, it helps you become more because of them. And that's how your identity becomes something you can trust, not just in good times, but especially when things get hard. Adaptability sustains growth. In a world that's constantly changing, the ability to adjust, evolve, and respond with agility is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. Too many people get stuck because they cling to what used to work. They hold tightly to old habits, old beliefs, and old systems, hoping that repetition will somehow produce different results. But life doesn't reward stagnation. It rewards those who are willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Growth is never static, it's fluid, dynamic, and alive. And to keep growing, you must be willing to let go of the familiar in order to embrace the possible. Adaptability starts with humility. It means acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. It requires the courage to admit when you're wrong, to listen when others speak, and to observe when your methods stop working. That kind of self-awareness is rare, but it's powerful, because the people who grow the most are the ones who stay curious. They don't see change as a threat, they see it as a teacher. They ask better questions, they update their thinking, they shift their behavior, not because they're weak or indecisive, but because they're committed to evolving. One of the biggest barriers to adaptability is ego. The ego wants certainty, it wants control, it wants to be right. But growth doesn't care about ego, it cares about truth. And sometimes the truth is that your old ways no longer serve the person you're becoming. That realization can be painful, it can feel like failure, but it's actually the beginning of transformation. When you let go of rigid identity and embrace a mindset of learning, you free yourself to explore new skills, new paths, and new levels of awareness that you didn't know you were capable of. Adaptability also means being responsive rather than reactive. When life throws unexpected challenges your way, as it inevitably will, your ability to pause, assess, And adjust determines whether you fall behind or move forward. Reactive people get stuck in frustration. They try to force situations back to how they used to be. But responsive people stay grounded. They stay open. They ask, what is this moment asking of me? And they adapt their energy accordingly. That doesn't mean abandoning your values. It means expressing them through new methods, new strategies, and sometimes new environments. The pace of change in the modern world is faster than ever. Technology, culture, and even language are evolving rapidly. Those who resist this change often find themselves disconnected, not just from society, but from themselves. Because deep down, we are designed to grow. We are wired for progress. And when we deny that inner push to adapt, we experience frustration, confusion, and a sense of being lost. Adaptability is how we stay aligned with our potential in a world that doesn't stand still. It's also important to understand that adaptability is a skill, not a trait. It's not something you're born with. It's something you can develop. It starts with mindset. Are you open to feedback? Do you challenge your own assumptions? Do you seek out perspectives different from your own? These are the behaviors that stretch your mind and expand your view of the world. And when your thinking evolves, your decisions evolve with it. Suddenly, new paths open up, new opportunities emerge, and you find yourself capable of things you once thought were impossible. Adaptable people are also more resilient because they don't break when the structure changes. They bend, they shift, they find another way. That flexibility doesn't mean they lack conviction. It means they know that growth often comes through redefinition. They're not afraid to start over. They're not afraid to change direction because they understand that identity is not tied to one plan or one position. It's tied to a deeper purpose, and that purpose can take many forms over a lifetime. Another powerful part of adaptability is that it allows you to stay engaged with life. When you're adaptable, you're constantly learning, you're curious, you're interested, you're aware, and that presence, being tuned into the present moment instead of clinging to the past, allows you to make better choices. It makes you more creative, more resourceful, more alive. You stop resisting reality and start working with it. You become a collaborator with life instead of a victim of change. Adaptability is not about giving up your core. It's about strengthening your foundation so that it can support different versions of growth. It's about becoming more skillful in how you express who you are. It's knowing that your values don't change, but the way you live them might. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because at the heart of true personal development is the willingness to transform, not once, but again and again. Adaptability is how you continue becoming who you were meant to be, no matter how the world around you changes. Purpose expands through service. Many people think becoming the best version of themselves is a personal journey, a solitary mission to improve, to achieve, to succeed. And while personal development is deeply individual, it doesn't reach its full meaning until it goes beyond the self. Real growth is not just about what you can do for you. It's about what you can do for others because of who you've become. That's where the journey transforms. That's where it begins to matter not just in your own life, but in the lives around you. The pursuit of purpose often begins inward. You start by asking who you are, what your values are, what your dreams look like. You focus on your skills, your habits, your mindset. You build discipline, learn resilience, and refine your character. But eventually, there comes a moment when progress stops being fulfilling unless it connects to something bigger than yourself. You realize that climbing the mountain means very little if you're standing at the top alone. Fulfillment comes not just from reaching your potential, but from using it to lift someone else. That's where purpose becomes alive through service. Service is not about sacrifice in the way we often think of it. It's not about losing yourself to help others. It's about expanding yourself to make room for others. When you grow stronger, wiser, more confident, that power becomes a tool. And tools are meant to build, not just to keep. You begin to see your talents not as trophies, but as instruments for impact. You start asking, who can benefit from what I've learned? Who might be walking the path I once struggled through? How can I be useful? Those questions signal a shift from self-centered growth to purpose-driven leadership. Some of the most respected and fulfilled individuals are not the ones who have achieved the most, but the ones who have contributed the most. They didn't just master their craft. They shared it. They didn't just overcome adversity. They used their stories to help others navigate their own. They turned personal success into collective uplift. That's the power of service. It gives your journey weight. It gives your progress legacy. It transforms your challenges into someone else's encouragement and your growth into someone else's hope. True service also requires empathy. It asks you to step out of your own world and into someone else's. It challenges you to see beyond your achievements and ask how those achievements can bring light to others. Empathy is not a weakness, it's a strength because it gives your growth direction. Without empathy, success is hollow, but with it, success becomes meaningful. You don't just succeed, you matter. You become someone who helps others believe, someone who listens, someone who leads not with noise, but with presence. One of the most powerful things about service is that it also deepens your own identity. When you serve others, you're reminded of where you came from. You reconnect with the version of yourself that once struggled, doubted, and grew. That reflection keeps you grounded. It keeps you humble. It keeps you grateful. And those qualities are essential if you want your growth to last. Because growth without gratitude turns into pride. Growth with service turns into purpose. Service can take many forms. It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. Sometimes it's a conversation, a moment of honesty, a simple act of kindness. Sometimes it's mentoring someone, sharing your mistakes, or just showing up when it matters most. The point isn't what you do, it's why you do it. When your growth becomes a vehicle for someone else's healing, learning, or progress, it multiplies. It ripples outward. It creates meaning that goes far beyond individual success. There's also a deeper kind of motivation that comes from serving others. When you're only doing something for yourself, it's easier to quit. But when your growth becomes part of someone else's hope, quitting feels like letting more than just yourself down. You become accountable not only to your own goals, but to the people you've inspired. That responsibility doesn't weigh you down, it lifts you. It keeps you moving when things get hard. It gives your efforts emotional fuel. You don't just want to win, you want your journey to mean something. Purpose through service is the highest level of growth. It's the place where everything you've worked on internally finds its way into the world. It's not about being a hero or being perfect. It's about being human enough to share what you have, who you are, and what you've learned. That kind of contribution doesn't just change others, it changes you. It refines you. It expands you. Because when you help others rise, you rise too. When you light someone else's path, yours becomes clearer. And in that exchange, your personal development becomes something far greater than personal. It becomes purposeful. Becoming the best version of you is not a destination. It's a direction. It's not found in comparison, perfection, or fleeting moments of success. It's built through clarity of purpose, through consistent daily action, through resilience in adversity, through the courage to adapt, and through the willingness to serve beyond yourself. This journey isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and having the humility to grow through every phase. You don't need to be extraordinary to begin, but you do need to begin to become extraordinary. The best version of you is already inside. You don't need to invent it. You need to reveal it step by step, choice by choice, day by day. And in doing so, you don't just change your own life. You give others permission to change theirs. Because when you become the best version of you, you inspire the best in those around you. That's where real impact begins. That's where real leadership lives. That's where you stop existing and start becoming.